Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to an all-new weekly art challenge review video. I'm your host, BJ Dell. If you are new to the channel, basically, I do one of these videos every single Wednesday. At the end of the video, I give you a challenge word for that week. You draw a design based on that word, and then you post it online. If you want to take part in these challenges, stay tuned to the end of the video. I will tell you exactly how. But then the following week, I handpick a few different entries for that week and do a review video like this based on those selections. So last week's word was St. Patrick's, so let's see what you guys came up with. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the video today and show off some of the St. Patrick's submissions. First one up is from Jacqueline, and Jacqueline said this is her first submission, first time to publish anything in the group. So number one, welcome. Thanks for sharing your work, Jacqueline. So we've got this super cute kind of St. Patrick's theme Grim Reaper. I feel like the character design on this is really good. It's a cute design, and the overall composition is really great. So let's talk about some things here that just seem a little bit off. And I know there was some comments about this already in the group and on the post. So Jacqueline might be aware of this, but I'll kind of dive into it a little bit deeper for anybody that didn't see the follow-up comments. So we've got the body of the Grim Reaper here. No line outline, just the colors basically doing the work of the outline. But then when we move up to the hat and the sickle here, we've got these heavy outlines, and it just looks off having no outlines here and then outlines here. When you pull back and kind of look at it, it almost seems like this hat here is a piece of clip art that was just thrown in on top of a design. And that's why it's really important to kind of keep a consistent style choice throughout your designs, just so it reads well and it doesn't look like it's, bits and pieces of alternate styles thrown in on top of each other. And I think this one could have really kind of benefited from using, one consistent style. So whether that be, using an outline here, if I can switch to the right brush, using just a black outline here around like you did, that would be one option. And then the other option, of course, is using just the outlines here. I know with this it's going to be a little bit difficult because you've got the green of the Grim Reaper here and then also the green of the hat. So rather than trying to break those up with different values of the green and different shading techniques, it might be easier starting out just to add the outline here with the black. More advanced technique would be, making these no outlines. So definitely kind of check that out and do some more kind of work and practice on getting a consistent look. But overall, I think the design is really cute and it works really well. Just definitely pay attention to that. Another thing here too is we've got a shadow back here on the left side. We've got no shadow or really no highlights even, but the light source is coming in from this top right hand corner. If we use this as the basis for the light source. However, with the hat, we've got the shadow then on this side and then the highlights here. So these shadows here and these shadows here are basically contradicting each other as far as where the light source is coming from. So if we would take, I guess, this as the kind of judge for the light source, then the light source would be coming from here. So if you did that, then obviously the shadows then would have to be down here on this side rather than this one. So definitely stay consistent, not only with your line work, but also your shadows. I know a lot of people struggle with shadows. I think people kind of overthink it and make it harder than what it is. It's just kind of just using common sense and knowing, well, if a shadow's here, then there's shadows here. You're not going to have a highlight on the same side where the shadows are. So, but really good job, Jacqueline. Thanks for submitting that this week. Next up, we've got Erin B. And Erin said that this is the submission was inspired by my handsome cat Butterball, and I think this one is really great. Just super cute cat design. Love the eyes, having that green color kind of ties into the overall St. Patrick's theme as well, so very cool there. Love the background too. This is one of those instances where you could just have a plain white background and it's going to look pretty plain, but then going in and trying to go too complicated with it might muddy the design. And I think just kind of this kind of tree foliage plant pattern here in the background really works well with the design. The cat is super well done. I just love the kind of detail and textures used across here to build up the fur. Just a really great job with that. The one thing here I would kind of pay attention to is looking at the detail of the fur and just how crisp and clean everything is. When we move up to the hat here and you've kind of got these mounds of folds here, everything turns a little bit muddy. So I would definitely work a little bit more on the textures in the hat, and same thing here, you know, textures down here, just because once again, we've got kind of two different art styles. We've got super crisp lines here, super detailed pen work and brush work. And then up here, like I said, it just kind of looks like it's all smudged together and doesn't have that crisp, clean look that the rest of the cat does. So a couple things here that you could do is, you know, just totally knock these out and just have this flat across and kind of build up the kind of dimensions to the hat more with a texture rather than going in and trying to do the shadows and shading here and blending them together. You could use a texture for that. Same thing here with this overlap. You know, it kind of muddies here into this bump, you know, just pulling this maybe here might be a little bit better. And this top part here too, maybe letting the line work be done just by the colors itself. We don't have any lines out here on the cat. It's just kind of the fur coming around that gives the cat's face its shape. So once again here, like in the previous one, having this line work here looks a little bit different than the rest of the design, but just a really good job. I think it's a strong design and looks really great. A good take on the word prompt this week. So thanks so much for submitting that, Erin. Next up, we've got Anna. We've got this super adorable leprechaun here for St. Patrick's Day, and wanted to highlight this one because I talk a lot about line weights, talk a lot about, you know, shadows and highlights. But one of the things I've always talked about with shadows and highlights is sometimes they aren't necessary, especially if you're feeling kind of overwhelmed by where to put them and how to make them in the right area like we talked about before. It's better to leave them off than to put them on if you're not comfortable. And I think Anna just kind of shows you what's possible with just using the flat colors. And this is fantastic. I think this would have actually looked a little less appealing with shadows and highlights. So this really is a key example of what you can do by just dropping those and not adding them to absolutely everything. Same thing here too with line weights. This has a very just bold clip art look to it just by using those consistent line weights throughout, and I think it's a fantastic job. The white outline here just makes everything pop, and I love the little stars here with the clovers here, not putting the outline around those. It just kind of accentuates the whole design, and it's just a super strong piece. I think everyone could agree that you could see this all day, every day on, you know, any type of St. Patrick's Day items, whether it be napkins or t-shirts or, you know, party cups, stuff like that. This has so many different commercial possibilities, and it's just a fantastic piece. So really enjoyed seeing that one this week, Anna, so thanks so much for submitting that. Next up, we've got Christopher, and Christopher's got this kind of, I think the explanation that somebody put in the comments was that he's tired of being rich, tired of the gold, and tired of the beer. He's been doing this for too long, and it really reads like that with the facial expression. He just has that, okay, I'm over this look, and I think that is great. I love the eyes and the mouth. It really kind of brings home that feeling of I'm just tired of being a leprechaun and everything that goes with it. So really good job on kind of portraying that, Christopher. And overall, the design is really good. I like the background here. Got some stuff added in, but it's not super complicated, and it reads really well, consistent style throughout. In addition, probably would have dropped or kind of changed the kind of shadow here on the little grass parts if you just kind of make the shadows off to the side, or even pull these colors up here just so it's not like that solid shadow, something like that. Might make those look a little bit better. And the other thing I want to talk about with this one is the hands and staying consistent with hands. One thing here, there's a lot of different ways to draw hands, and I've talked about in previous videos, you know, drawing hands and how to construct. And there's, like I said, so many different ways to approach. You've got, you know, the fingers that are rounded. You could do more square fingers that come off, kind of have that just kind of Fortnite or Team Fortress type of feel to them if you're into video games. And you kind of have that going on over here on this side. So we've got these kind of squared off fingers, but then on this side, the fingers are round. So once again, keeping a consistent style throughout your designs. You've got kind of two different styles of hands here, so I would pick one and go with those. And then the last thing I want to talk about with this one, because I know people struggle with hands, is the hand here around the beer. And a lot of people do this. They wrap these fingers too far around whatever the character is holding. And I actually brought props today to kind of show what I'm talking about here. So let's see. I've got this mixing glass here. So this is about the size of the beer cup in this, and if I hold this here, you'll see that my fingers don't wrap around all the way. There's going to be a pretty big gap here, and the fingers, you're more seeing the tips on the side rather than having them wrapped around. And just because of the size of the glass, you've got a pretty good space distance between the thumb and that next finger over here. Whereas here, we've got a very little space. So it makes the glass look either A, really small, or it makes the hands look really big. Either way, it just doesn't look proportionally correct. So in comparison, because we are a healthy household that really cares about, you know, stuff like that, here's a can of spray cheese. And this is kind of more consistent with the size relationship that this looks like in the picture. So if I put my hands here, now you can see my fingers wrapping around here and the thumbs coming in closer like this. So obviously the small little can of spray cheese is not going to be the size of a beer glass or a beer mug. So definitely work on the fingers and how far they come out. So to give you an example with this, let me just kind of erase some of this. So more so we will have the fingers just kind of, like I said, just seeing the tips of them on the side, if I can get the right color here. So let's just totally knock this out. And we'll go back in with the black to kind of add the outline there so we know where the glass ends. It's right there. So just doing the fingers like that, you know, just having the tips shown is going to look a little bit more correct. That's not exactly perfect, but you kind of get the idea. Rather than having them wrap all the way around, it's going to be just a lot more realistic just to have the tips wrapped around like so. So definitely work on that, and also, like I said, keep the fingers the same. So like with this, if you go with those square ones, you know, having them a little bit more square, it's going to make it look a little bit more realistic proportion-wise. But a really great job, Christopher. So thanks so much for submitting that one this week. Next up is Sam, and this one is super cool. Sam said knew a lot of people would do the Shamrock and Leprechaun route, so decided to go the opposite and went with the actual St. Patrick, and we've got this very cool stained glass look to it. If you guys want to check this out too in the group, Keep Creating, Sam actually posted a time lapse for this. So this one, of course, done with the symmetry tool, which is one thing that's really cool in Procreate. If you guys watched my leaf video, I talked about the symmetry tool and how I'm not a big fan of it for doing a complete design. However, I think in the case of this and a stained glass type of design, I think the symmetry tool works really, really well. Also works well if you're doing coloring books. You can do backgrounds and stuff like that. Fairly simple with the symmetry tool. Doing, you know, a full-on character design, it just looks too mechanical and off. But with this, you know, a stained glass piece is supposed to look somewhat kind of mechanical as far as the relationship of everything being symmetrical. So I think it's a wise choice going with this. Love the colors. Everything just pops, and it truly does have that authentic stained glass look to it. And I love going with the St. Patrick and the actual saint for this one. Just a really, really cool take on the prompt, and just love Sam's stuff every week that he posts. Just super great artist. So thanks so much for that, Sam. Next one up is Bill G, and Bill's got this kind of crazy looking leprechaun here. Just a very almost, I don't even know what you would call it, like a steampunk or like a post-apocalyptic, like Mad Max type of look to it. Just really cool. So definitely a different take on this with the gas mask here. I think it's really cool. Love the background here with the the kind of texture used in the cloud texture, and then with this lightning coming up out of the cauldron, looks really cool, especially the way that you did the highlights and the shadows. Everything there is on point. Did a really good job of kind of giving the feel of that flames and the electricity coming up and giving like a luminance to the character and having that light bounce really, really well. So fantastic job there. A couple things here. The hand here, I like the kind of curve to the hand and the grip that he's making here. The thumb here looks a little bit puffy here on the end. You might want to just kind of angle that out a little bit so it's got a little bit more of like a natural angle instead of just that roundness to it. Looks a little bit odd with the way that these are. You kind of have that more tapered end of the finger, so I would probably, you know, taper that thumb a little bit as well. Just looks a little puffy there. Another thing too with the lightning here, definitely pay attention when you're adding in effects like this of what layer order you're working with. So obviously the pot here, the cauldron, is sitting in front of the character, so we've got, you know, these lightning effects coming up over top of the character. However, you actually had those on a layer below the lines here, so the lines actually come up on top. So the lightning effect here is going over top of the base color and, you know, the highlights and shadows. However, they're not going over top of the lines, which they should be since they're sitting in front. So that looks a little bit off, and at first I could see something was off and didn't know exactly what it was at first until I started looking closer. I'm like, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. I like how these kind of wrap around here in the back, so you did a good job there. But then when they wrap back over top here, once again, we've got that line work that's coming over top of that. So this should come over like so. Same thing here. And I think that would look a lot better just by fixing those. You see already that that really has a lot more depth to it because it stands out from the actual character design. But just a really cool design, a really cool stance, and everything else. The composition of this thing is super, super great. So thanks for submitting that this week, Bill. And last but not least, we've got Jessica. And Jessica, before I show it, Jessica said, I haven't really had any time to practice my drawing since I got a puppy. Picture in comments because she's a cutie, but I really miss participating in the challenges, so I made this pot of gold with polymer clay. And kind of showing you here, this group's called Keep Creating. Talk about, you know, just creating stuff no matter what kind of traditional route or digital route you go. And this is super traditional because it's actually a sculpture. So even if you guys want to add in sculptures or pieces like this, it's art, you're creating it, so we definitely want to see it. And I think this is cool. Just definitely a little bit of a change to the usual submissions that we get. So this is very awesome. And personally, I'm a sucker for polymer clay. It's one of the things that I like to do in my spare time. I don't have as much spare time anymore, so it's been a couple years since I've personally had a chance to sit down and sculpt anything, but it's super relaxing and super fun. If you guys want me to do a video later on polymer clay and doing sculpting, that might be something I do down the line. I know the channel is called Let's Draw, but I definitely want to focus on all aspects of art. So if you guys think that a video like that would be cool, definitely let me know down in the comments. But it just kind of shows what you can do to express your creativity. And that's one thing too, with drawing and sculpting, they kind of go hand in hand. If you get better at drawing, you're going to get better at sculpting. Likewise, getting better at sculpting, you're going to get better at drawing, just because you're going to be able to make stuff in, you know, a 3D sense, and you're going to see when you turn it and position it different ways how it looks. And then once you translate that over to drawing, it's really going to help your artwork to kind of be able to visualize where everything goes. And if you make a move here or want to twist a certain part, you're going to kind of be able to see it better in your mind's eye and understand how it works. So just a fantastic piece. I love seeing that, Jessica. And just because we've got to end it on that, here's Jessica's new dog. Super, super adorable. So thanks so much for sharing that. And those are the submissions this week for St. Patrick's. Alright guys, that's it for this week's video. As always, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Special thanks goes out to every single one of you that submitted designs this week. I really appreciate you guys taking part in these challenges, and I love seeing your work. So thanks again. If you like today's video too, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. And speaking of new videos, I talked about in this one, letting me know if you guys want me to do a polymer clay one. I would love to do something like that, so let me know if there's any interest. If I can take it outside of the realm of drawing and just do some other fun artistic stuff. This was actually the last polymer clay sculpt that I did, a little Audrey 2 from Little Shop. Turned out super awesome. I'm still super proud of this. This one's probably about a year and a half, 2 years old, but just love this thing to death. So let me know down in the comments if that's something you guys want to see. If you guys want to take part in these challenges though, here is how. Basically, I started a group over on Facebook called Keep Creating, a Learn, Draw, Share Art Community, which I will link in the description below. Join that group and post your designs for these challenges in there. If you don't have Facebook, because I know there's some out there that don't, you can always tag me on Instagram or Twitter at bjdell, or there's a contact form on my website. You can email me these. bjdell.com is my website. So last week's word was St. Patrick's, and this week the word is pig. So let's see what you guys can do. So that's it, and until next time, keep creating.